Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to give you a review of episode 3 of Obi Wan Kenobi. Very creatively called Part 3. As it starts, we see Obi-Wan trying to reach Qui-Gon through some type of meditation on the cargo ship that he escaped the planet with Leia on. But he seems to sort of sense Vader instead, or at least remember him. Speaking of Vader, we see a scene of him getting suited up, which includes his arms being attached and his limbs, and the armor being put on, which has never been seen before, which is really cool. And then he has a conversation by hologram video call with Reva, and goodness gracious, James Earl Jones sounds exactly like he did in 1983, which is insane because the man is a lot older now, and you would think that his voice has changed. And as I'm saying this, I'm remembering, it seems to me, that his voice had kind of changed and he didn't really sound like himself when they've used him in, I think it was Rogue One and one of the animated shows, but he totally does now. And I think maybe they manipulated his voice to help him sound better, which is similar to what they did with Luke Skywalker. They crafted Luke's voice for the what was it, or Mandalorian season 2, whatever it was, with a computer. So I think they did something similar here with James Earl Jones because he sounded amazing. It was unbelievable. Anyway, Obi-Wan is talking with Leia as they're walking around the planet, and is it me or did he use the phrase "your dad"? I think he did, which is kind of weird because Obi-Wan would say father, he wouldn't say dad. It was kind of weird. But he seems to see a vision of Anakin while they're walking around. Next, we see that the Inquisitors have dispatched probes to the mining systems where they suspect Obi-Wan is. Obi-Wan and Miss Precocious hitch a ride with a passerby, played by Zach Braff, and soon find themselves in the company of
Imperial stormtroopers.
They question Obi-Wan, and he almost slips up. He calls Leia instead of the name that he said was her name, Luma. And he plays it off like Leia was her mother's name and that she has her mother's face, which, is a very interesting thing to say because, of course, he knew her mother and remembers her mother well. But once the stormtroopers beg off, he ends up telling Leia a story when she asks him if he's her real father, because she recognizes that he must have known her mother. And he said something about feeling as though that he's not her father, but he feels as though he had a brother, but he can't remember for sure because he was taken from his family so young to join up with the Jedi, which is kind of weird, but okay. At a checkpoint later on, he's detained. He gets scanned by the probe that has now arrived, and he has to shoot a bunch of
Imperial stormtroopers,
one of whom gets cut in half after falling from the top of a structure onto an energy field that was acting like a gate to keep vehicles from getting past a certain point. It was pretty cool, actually. But backup soon arrives, only for the backup to end up being taken out by what would seem to be a disloyal Imperial commander, played by the lady from Torchwood, who then escorts Obi-Wan and Leia through the town to a sort of underground railroad depot where they're almost discovered by yet another pair of
Imperial stormtroopers.
It's not long before Vader actually arrives, and Obi-Wan finds himself all weak in the knees, as if there was some kind of
Disturbance in the Force
that affected him physically. And then through a window, he watches Darth Vader straight up murder some people, and then he kind of runs away, only to be found by Vader, at which point he runs away again. And I understand that might be because he spent 10 years not wielding the Force and he doesn't think he can take on Vader. It may be because he doesn't feel like he can face Anakin after everything that happened, but I don't know, would Obi-Wan run away? That kind of bothered me. Anyway, they're playing cat and mouse. And I have to tell you that I find this lack of engagement disturbing. It isn't long before he asks Anakin, "What have you become?" And Vader says, "I am what you made me." So it's the "you made me" trope, from like Batman with the Joker. But anyway, they finally do kind of engage with each other, but it was pretty much just Vader toying with Obi-Wan. He was dominating him and clearly could have killed him, but was just toying with him. At one point, he picks Obi-Wan up bodily, slams him to the ground, and drags him through a fire that he starts, which of course is a callback to how Anakin got all burned during their last encounter. But after a couple of minutes, he tosses him aside and blows out the flames with the Force and directs the stormtroopers to bring Obi-Wan to him, which was weird because a moment ago he had just picked him up bodily with the Force. So like, why? What was that about? I don't get that. But the underground lady shows up and intervenes and reignites a fire between where he's standing and where Obi-Wan is and where the stormtroopers are. And apparently no one can cross the fire, and Vader can't put it out again with the Force. So he can't really do anything but stand there, which I don't know. That strikes me as not believable. Was he weakened at that point? I don't see why he would be. Anyway, Obi-Wan is spirited away by the Underground Railroad lady, who had left Leia on her own to continue to the finish line of the Underground Railroad getaway that she was on, where she was going to meet up with a contact. But of course, she finds the contact dead and Reva standing there trying to pretend to be the contact, which Leia doesn't buy and starts running from her. So, I don't know. I found this episode underwhelming. I wasn't digging the Zach Braff cameo. The little girl that plays Leia continues to be not very good at acting. I did like the lady from Torchwood. I liked the character. I liked that actor, so that was cool. She did a really good job. And of course, James Earl Jones's voice was awesome, whether it was his own, whether it was manipulated by a computer. Darth Vader sounded awesome. I was worried that he wasn't going to, because of how he sounded in either Rogue One or the animated show or both. But he sounded great. And like I said, it might have been a computer, but it was just amazing. So whatever they did, I'm here for it. Apparently they have lady stormtroopers now, by the way, which, okay, because they ditched the whole clone thing as of The Force Awakens. So I guess that started a bunch of years earlier. I don't know, but they're not clones. You could tell from the male voices anyway that they're not all the same. So I don't know, whatever. The only other thing I want to say at this point, because that's my review, I found it to be meh. So the only other thing I want to say at this point is I don't understand all the hate towards Reva. It's a brand new character, so it's not like they can say, oh, they're not doing the character correctly the way it was before. There is no before. So I don't see what's not to like about the characterization. I think she fits in well as a character with other, the other cadre of Star Wars villains we've seen over the years. I don't find, the actress's performance to be bad. No worse than the guy that's playing the fifth brother or whatever. So I don't understand why people are giving her a hard time. You could argue that the character's a little one note, and a little over the top in terms of her, hardcore stance about Obi-Wan, her like overwhelming drive to get him. But, that kind of characterization goes back at least as far as Moby Dick, right? She's kind of an Ahab character in that way. So, and Moby Dick is a classic, right? So, and no one would ever accuse Melville of bad writing, I would think. So, she's playing what they gave her and doing it competently at the very least, it seems to me. And the characterization is, not a characterization that's unforeseen in literature. So I don't get it. And, I hesitate to say people are racist, though I know that she has been getting some specifically racist hate, which it goes without saying I don't understand at all. as far as non-racist criticism, and there has been some, non-race-based criticism, I don't get that either. I think she's doing a good job. So I don't understand it. I don't know if maybe people are prejudiced against Black people sort of unconsciously and automatically find fault with them. I would hope that that's not true, because that would be a bummer, because if you don't even know that you're prejudiced, you can't change it. So that would really be awful. But anyway, I think the character's fine, and I don't see a problem with the character at all. So I don't know. If they were able to say this character used to be this way before on Clone Wars or on Rebels or in the comics, and they've changed it and I don't like it, I could get that. I say that stuff all the time about things, but it's a brand new character, so that angle doesn't exist. So I don't know. I don't get it. But anyway, that's all. I will be back with my review of the next episode. I'm going to take my leave for now, and until I see you again, I say, may the Force be with you.